Okay, it's 7:01. We have a quorum, so we will begin. Today is Monday, March 4th, and it's 7:01, and I will call the meeting to order for the Wakefield Commission on Disabilities. And Lois, do you have the flag?
I do, if I can find it. I have it. What do we do with this? Oh, it's right here.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Our mission is to address the needs and concerns of our disabled residents and provide their full participation in the activities and services of Wakefield. Janice, I know that Bill Renault will not be joining us tonight. Paula is going to just be a few minutes, so she's planning to come. And I haven't heard from Paul or Kristen. I know that I believe tonight would have been Kristen's last night in the commission, as her period ends on April, and she has decided not to renew. So I want to publicly thank her for her time here. It was very much appreciated. And I want to thank you, Janice, for agreeing to put in a renewal application, as did I. And I'm guessing that at one of the April town meetings, town council meetings, that they will vote on new members. I haven't received anything from the town on any other interested parties. So we would have one opening for Kristen's replacement. So if people know of anybody that you think might be interested and be a good fit, please encourage them to send an application to Sherry Dalton. And Paul, thank you, Paul, for joining.
Thanks. Hello.
How are you? So rather than I don't know, has anybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes that Janice sent out previously? I did not, and I would like to request that we just hold off approving, I think it was December, January, and February for the next meeting, unless if a lot of people have reviewed them and all is fine, make a motion to approve.
I've reviewed them.
Thank you. That was given that they went out about 15 minutes ago.
It was really more than that, but I just couldn't get to them.
Yeah, I couldn't get to him either.
You did a great job.
As always.
Yeah, I almost, well, maybe even always miss some typos. So I am immune to anybody editing and correcting and sending things along to me. I would prefer that you do that than not do it. So let me know, and we can hold off till the next meeting, and that way people will have a chance to actually read
everybody will have a chance to have reviewed them. Thank you. So we'll just go down the agenda. Mass Office on Disability, Architectural Access. Judy, I'm not sure I'm recalling what that was all about, so I'm going to let you.
So that was a meeting that I attended on February the 13th. It was through the Massachusetts Office on Disability regarding the topic of architectural access. And a lot of the issues that were raised at this meeting are specific issues that we have been discussing in this group. And I happened to notice when I reviewed the minutes that Janice wrote up a lot of what was covered in this meeting. was things that we had discussed in those minutes. So they basically went through 3 separate issues that I noted of interest to this group. So low current community stock of accessible housing, lack of supply of low-cost rentals, and the need for both accessible and affordable housing. Second, the lack of personal care attendance and similar assistance. And number 3, aging caregivers caring for adult children, with many of the caregivers now over the age of 60. So as you can see, these are things that we've been discussing here as well. And then part of the resources discussed at this meeting was the www.ada.gov website, which has some really good information. And I'm actually not sure if it's on our website. I reviewed our website and I didn't specifically notice that one. But there's an ADA information line for callers, and they have very specific topics, including resources, law and regulations, as well as how to file a complaint. And specifically for this meeting, they showcased on this website the ADA standards for accessible design. And I will also note there's another meeting that I did register to attend, also through the Massachusetts Office on Disability, and it's going to be entitled Disability Connections, and that will be held on Wednesday, April the 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I'll make an effort to attend at least part of that.
And thank you for that, because I was going to bring that up as one of our agenda items tonight, because I think we had talked about that previous. So Janice, would you mind reaching out to Jen McDonald and asking her to put that ada.gov website link on our page?
No problem.
Okay. And
Thank
so,
you for that,
yeah.
Judy.
Judy, and so Judy, so we've identified these, that they identified the three topics that you just mentioned. What is the game plan? I think we're all well aware of the lack of housing and the aging caregivers. Those of us who have loved ones in programs are experiencing extreme turnover with staff there too. I believe, and Paula, you will know this, that DDS is increasing their rates to, to encourage individuals to come work at these programs, and that they're hoping that the increase in rates will retain them.
Exactly. So that was part of what was discussed. There were other topics as well at this meeting, but those were the ones that resonated with me personally, because it's been what we've been also discussing. So I guess part of what to keep in mind is that this is not going under the radar. This is what all communities are discussing right now.
Okay, so we need to have a game plan with the housing. I guess that's one of the that's something that we can have direct input into within the town here. We know that that discussion with the MBTA overlay is a hot topic. And that's certainly going to increase housing. So now the question is working with Bill Renault to figure out how we get as much of that housing to affordable. Right, and I mean, really affordable,
Yeah.
because even some of what they say is affordable is, is not.
Mhm.
So,
Marie, do you think, or does anybody think that we could approach the Mass Office on Disability and ask them, could you do a sort of how to get things moving, what you could do in your town, what you could do as a disability commission, kind of we see the problem, they see the problem, it's, the PCA problem has been very, very serious for many, many years. And how are things going to be addressed? And what can we do, like with the MBTA housing issue? What can we do when we have a town building that they're deciding, hey, what are we going to do with this old school? How do we approach it? Do they have any advice for folks like us?
yeah, I mean, I would be certainly amenable to that. Do you have a contact that you could reach out to?
I used to. I don't know if I do anymore. I haven't, I'm not doing that on a daily basis anymore. Yay. But Jeff Dugan
Oh,
is,
yeah.
if he's still there, I had a lot of contact with him while I was working. And because we did within our program, we did a ton of disability access work. So, he is really knowledgeable. I'd be willing to reach out and ask, do you want to do that together, Judy?
Is he one of the speakers who was at the presentation?
He usually is. He does a lot of the.
I mean, when you had it at the Galvin? Was he the one who
No.
came?
No, he was not. He has spoken to us here. It's been quite a while. Dan, do you
Mm.
remember? That was, I mean, it was Lorna, I think it was when the two of us were newly on this commission. So, and
He talked one night to us, and I know he's got a job and he lives like on the South Shore or something. It was difficult at night for him to,
right, but now we can do Zoom. So,
for a long time.
Yeah,
right.
and he might have to do something during the day. I'm not sure he could work outside of his work hours, and or if he'd be
Yeah.
interested in working outside of his work hours. But even asking him, where do we go? What do we do? I could reach out and ask, is there anything that Mass Office on Disability might be able to do? Our commission is particularly interested. Could we do, as we did before, gather together a bunch of commissions in our
Oh, yeah.
area and say, do a 4 to 5 o'clock meeting someday, and we'll invite, because I really hate to have us be the only ones that would benefit from that information, because you can't do that 351 times for
Right.
every single town. But if we said, we'd like to gather together all the surrounding communities
We
and
might all do
offer
our,
that.
for the
I'm
town
sorry,
council,
Dan, say that again, please.
our town council liaison to the Commission on Disabilities. Talk to her, who might talk to Donald Wong or Kate Lipper Garavedian, and maybe Jason Lewis on top of that.
That's Maureen. Is that Maureen this year? Or is it?
And Dennehy, is that our
Oh, it's
liaison?
Ian. Okay.
Which I think that will be off the board in a month or two. I don't think she's running for re-election, so.
Right.
I do think that it's a good idea to join together with a couple of the other commissions, similar to what happened with the vocational school
Mm.
discussions.
Yeah.
And then maybe like Dan said, one of the elected officials might be a really good resource for something like that to get some discussion happening.
and also to invite, if we are successful in gathering this group, inviting them as well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would love to have, that's a really good idea, Dan, to invite. I never think about them, inviting them to things, but they often come. So it's, I mean, Representative Wong comes to so many
right.
community
And
events.
Jason Lewis is pretty good about that too, so
Yep.
if you ask.
Yep, we're just like a little piece of us with Kate, so we don't, we don't see her as much. But I've, done events that she's been at, events she's been at. She's really smart and motivated. Not a huge personality, but a doer.
She gets
Well-
things done, yeah,
We have two state reps than one, so two voices are better than one.
right.
I think it's great to, and whoever, catches it. I mean, remember that Representative Wong came to our event at the Galvin.
Yes, he did.
So that was pretty cool because he probably has about 10 events a night that he could select from.
And
So
Kate was actually at the Wakefield one.
oh, she was at the Wakefield 101?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, I didn't recognize her at first. I guess I was surprised to see her, so yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a big issue if we're talking about PCAs and housing issues. And all of them must be involved in housing and building issues in some way or in a big way even. So I don't think this will be unfamiliar to them, the issue of affordable housing, but affordable accessible housing might not be quite as in the forefront for them, but we'll push it.
Right, and so between that and, so if we have the legislator on board, we know we're gonna have to probably have discussions with TDS if we want to get creative with that population. So, that, yeah, but having both those groups of folks there and everybody hearing it at once, yeah, could be very helpful. Those are good suggestions.
I feel like there just must be other things out there that we don't know about, or we don't know how to approach it. I'm willing to hear what anybody has to say.
Right, what they think would work. So
Do we
we're
have any-
not spinning our wheels.
Do we have any district meetings coming up? I know they usually have like about 12 different towns and they happen maybe quarterly. I know we went to one that was up in North Reading, I think. But it's like,
District for the commissions on disabilities, Dan?
Yeah.
I wonder, I bet that's on the Mass MOD website.
it probably is.
All right, I'll look for that.
I think last year they had one in Revere. I think somebody went to it.
That's a really,
I know that there's not a lot of commissions in every town on the towns that abut us. Melrose, of course, is a good one. There's not one in Reading. Was there like one person in Linfield that you knew, Paula? Stoneham, I can't remember now off the top of my head whether they had one person there. There's only one person in Saugus.
wow, how did they do anything?
I think that's the challenge, because we had reached out to them when we did the thing at the Voc.
Right, we didn't get a big response.
We got about,
Melrose.
right, 5 Melrose people, I think, were
Right.
at the meeting.
Right, I think that was the only other commission that joined.
Mhm.
I think we had also, when we did it, Intelligent Lives, reached out to let the other commissions know that what we were doing and to invite them and to have them invite anybody that they thought would be interested in attending. And I don't think we heard from anybody.
Well, we'll go back to those contacts, or I suppose we could check the websites again, because things are always changing.
Yeah, right.
Not only the Commission on Disabilities, we could also contact either like the Council of Aging here in Wakefield or even the Veterans Advisory. They all need housing for veterans. They need it for elderly people in Wakefield, or I should say older people in Wakefield.
Seniors. Yes. And so Paula and I are planning to go on April 27. I'm sorry, it's March 27. Check my calendar here. It's Wakefield Housing Authority is having a meeting, I think the annual meeting. Paula, do you remember the details on that?
I don't. It was something they sent out an agenda for, but it was kind of, their planning for the next year and priorities for Wakefield.
Right, and you and I thought that we should, we should A, attend, and B, kind of put that bee in the bonnet. Understand what their plan is, and if some of the population that, we service are not being addressed, then we want to bring that up.
Exactly. I think just bring a voice to the people that we support, all of the people with varying abilities in Wakefield.
And they would be a good group to invite to this meeting that we host as well.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
I wonder if MOD has any data on the number of people with disabilities that are unable to find housing. We'll have to ask them.
I bet they do. I'm sure DDS and MRC do.
Oh, yeah.
They're not allowed to have wait lists, but I'm sure they have active people.
I would invite a meeting with the Housing Authority because I've never seen one of their meetings. I don't know if they Zoom their meetings or not, but I've never seen anything on them.
They don't have a lot on their website because I did go to check to see, so they may not Zoom their meetings, they may be in person. This meeting that Paula and I are going to is in person, right, Paula? I didn't notice that it was a Zoom link.
Because it's an authority and not a committee or board in the town.
Correct.
Exactly. It is in person because I had looked at just trying to, check out like a Zoom of one of their meetings, just because of what we've talked about in housing, and they're not available like the other
Right.
committees.
And I didn't even see, they're not keeping up to date with their meeting minutes and things like that. At least they're not posted. The agendas were, but they
Oh
don't
my
have
gosh.
Janice.
Still, they're not on the website yet, so it's I'm way behind on that.
Yeah.
Paula, can you tell me again? You said the DDS and what other agency might have data?
I think Mass Rehab.
Oh, Mass Rehab. Yeah.
Mass Rehab Commission, so MRC.
Yep.
MRC.
Yep.
Yeah.
As
I
well as
think-
the independent living centers. I'm just thinking the independent living
Oh,
centers
I
and
know.
MRC.
I know most of them.
Yeah,
We
that
did a lot of work
they
with
have
them.
data that DDS doesn't have,
Mhm.
but still definitely, citizens of Wakefield.
And that would also be the Northeast Independent Living Center would be a really great group of people to invite to this meeting as well. We partnered with them to go out to our programs and do disability assessments and pilot the tool that is now on the website. So they were really helpful.
Paula, would you have the time to reach out to GDS and MRC in New England? Can you in your personal position, or is that something you don't have a comfort level with doing?
I definitely could reach out to MRC and the Northeast Center for Independent Living. DDS probably should come from somebody else.
Okay. Who maybe you just, you know what, if you just.
Oh, I can
swoop-
share an email address.
Yes,
Absolutely. I
okay.
can share an email address. And you know what? Let me see if I can do like a behind the scenes kind of ask, because they'd have to like pull their data from their system. And I know they don't always wanna do that and share that, but if I let them know what it's for, they might do it. So
We can
I
do
have-
a public, we can do a public data request. If are they a state agency?
Yep.
Yep.
We can do Freedom of Information, that data request, they would have to provide it.
Yeah,
don't-
yeah.
we don't need to go
Let me
there.
see if, yeah, let me see if I can ask. And if I'm not able to do it like within a week, I'll reach out and see if somebody else can do it.
Yeah, just send me an email. If you feel like somebody other than you needs to do that, and I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Don't let it get sticky for you.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we talked about that.
Let me
What
just
else?
add something here for a second
Sure.
here. Because I don't think that Northeast Independent Living Center covers, I could be wrong, covers deaf individuals. I think they go through Deaf Inc. And which is a IL center, which has, I think they still have an office in Salem, an
Mhm.
office in Lawrence. No, maybe it's not
All
Lawrence.
independent living centers have, I don't even know, I don't remember what they call them, deaf advocate liaisons at every independent living center, because we gathered all of those folks, and they gather together on a pretty regular basis, in Deaf Inc. and a few other agencies. So they have,
Yeah, Deaf Inc.'s the biggest one that covers
It is.
many of this part of the state.
yep, so, but they, every independent living center has a person that works on, deaf and hard of hearing issues. So there is at
Well,
least.
that's good to know,
one
because that wasn't the case before.
It was last time I met with them was pre-COVID, because we met in person. That's how my life runs. It was pre-COVID because we met in Framingham. And I think
Mhm.
they gathered together. I'm not sure if it's
Center for Living and Working.
we know we gathered at the library. And so it just is where they were meeting. There's a pretty room in the pretty Framingham library. And we're talking about the project that we're working on to assess for disability access. So they were great. They were really great. So I assume that group still meets. And I think that, why am I forgetting the name of the agency that gathers them all together? Place in, it's not in Worcester. It will come to me at some point in time, but there's an agency that is at an independent living center. I think it is in Framingham. I think it's a Center for Living and Working.
Center for Living and Working has a place in Framingham. Their main office is in Worcester.
Okay, I think it was Framingham that I went to, because the statewide Council for Independent Living Centers operates out of there. So I think it's the Silk, that's their initial, I think it's the Silk that gathers those folks together, because they have a contract to do stuff like gather people together and do surveys, and it's literally almost operates like a coalition and of independent living centers, but it operates out of the Silk. Sadie something or other was the director. I don't know if she's still there. Really helpful as well. Really, really helpful. So we have some folks we can reach out to.
We would be requesting information specifically for Wakefield. Yes, okay. Wakefield residents.
And I think that we could do that, but we could also get sort of, if Northeast Independent Living Center has any kind of data. I don't know how many communities they have, Paula, like, what do they have, like 15 communities? Maybe more. I don't know, but they could give it for the region, and we would be part of the region. Because we're not really terribly different.
Right, and it might be nice to have both sets of data points.
Mm.
Because,
Mhm.
you know, yeah.
And we're looking for the number of Wakefield residents seeking housing, or that they know are looking for housing, or are currently housed in some kind of specialized housing.
Is that what, are we looking for people that don't have housing options, either because of the price of the housing, the inaccessibility of the housing, or there just are no appropriate places if they wanted to get, like, I think about what we have talked about before, having the community apartments that are, to me, that I think of them as like dormitories that have a person who lives is a live-in person, but it's group housing, but
Right.
not a giant group house. It's just you know, people that want to live together.
I think they're referring to it as what, Paul, assisted housing, what, is that the correct
Yep.
term?
Yep.
It's called what?
Assisted housing?
Assisted house, assistive,
Yep.
IVE or ET, ED.
Would it
Assisted
be-
housing?
PIVE.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, yeah, but we're just looking for the number of people who are seeking housing or who are already in housing.
Good
I think, I wonder if anybody gathers like people that feel like they are not housed in a situation that they want to be in, because sometimes how would we know that? You know,
I know
think-
DDS does, and
Oh,
I
they do?
know MRC does. I don't know about the Independent Living Center,
Mhm.
only because MRC tends to get the folks who fall through the cracks or the folks with mental health issues, just because DMH doesn't hold on to them for any period of time. And MRC does have some limited housing options for certain individuals. So I know that they collect that data, and I know DDS does. I just, you know, maybe we want who's seeking housing and who's already in housing and kind of the area in general.
Yeah, that, I mean, that could be helpful. Both those, excuse me, data points could be helpful. How many do we currently house? And then if we know how many are seeking housing, and then you sort of always have to extrapolate that, you know, how many are currently housed, or how much housing do we have for folks like that currently? And I'm guessing it's probably all full. I wouldn't think there's any vacancies.
Right.
Right, and then you've got those that are, I'm sure that there's the waiting list, right? Like Wakefield Housing must have
Yep.
a list of people that are waiting.
3-4 years, I think so.
Right, you know, this Section 8 is all, I mean, there's all kinds of
Yep.
lists, and they all have, yeah, if it's saying it's taking 10 years, you know, I'm being pressured to get Dan on the list now because it could take 10 years before his name comes up. So,
That might be a good point for you and Paula to bring up at that meeting, if there's an opportunity to ask questions or whatever, saying, how big is the waiting list right now? And you know, what's the age range of folks on the waiting list? Because it could be people in their late teens to people in their very elder years. Interesting to find out. And if
Yeah.
about
There is
disability status.
Right. There is a separate list for kind of the general population and then people with disabilities and elders. There's two different lists.
we need to understand from Wakefield Housing the criteria. And it's my understanding that there is criteria and then it's weighted, right? The criteria, you get points whether, you know, if you're disabled or if you're homeless, obviously you would get more points, you move up the list. So we should understand the criteria.
Well, right here in Wakefield, couldn't we contact the Council on Aging and get something from like Aaron Burke and also Dave Mangan, who is the VSO, Veteran Service Officer? And I know the town does supply some money for certain people for oil, housing. But, you know, I don't know how private that is.
Yeah,
I just
don't
think
know.
so many pots of money. I think at least kind of from the user angle or trying to, facilitate people getting into housing. What the biggest challenge is for many people is that there's so many people, like Marie just mentioned, there's Section 8, there's project-based housing, there's CHAMP applications. So I think the Council on Aging could definitely provide us that for one group. I think it's just, that's just kind of Massachusetts. There's lots of little pockets of money. You just got to find them all. Or
So
find all the
let's,
people.
so let's confirm again what we're looking, when we go, Dan, would you be willing to talk to Council on Aging and Dave for the vets? If you're clear on what it is we're asking?
I think if we're asking questions that are broad-based, like how many people are you working with who are still seeking housing? And do you know how many people are already housed who are elder or veteran that you've helped to house? That way that you're not asking any
Right, you don't ask.
information.
So how many people are you working with that are seeking housing? And so how many veterans? Is it housed, when we were housed in, what is the appropriate term? How many are housed in, do we refer to it as public housing? What's the appropriate term? You're on mute, Paula?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Maybe we could say subsidized housing, and then there's local, state, and federal. So maybe if they could give us amounts of money in each of those three categories.
Wakefield, it would be the town for veterans, also the veterans facility out in Bedford, Massachusetts, the VA hospital. I think they house people there also.
Yeah, and Wakefield should have like a state-funded public housing and some federally funded public housing. I don't know where it is, but most communities have both.
Bedford on Broadway, and I think the other's Harts Hill.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think if you get on the Wakefield Housing Authority website, they list all of the different, if I can find it.
Isn't the Lincoln School considered part of that too?
Yeah.
It is, so it says,
I think it is Housing Authority. I think that's where their office is, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, it's in the basement.
housing programs. Harts Hill is a state development with 161 bedroom units of elderly / disabled housing. Lincoln School has 10 one-bedroom units of elderly disabled housing, 3 units of congregate housing for 15 clients. So, okay, so Crystal View is our federal building with 41 bedroom units of elderly disabled housing. We also manage Harts Hill Heights, which has 22 units of supported elderly housing. 41 go ahead, I'm sorry.
ADA compliant, which some of the housing at Harts Hill is not ADA.
Is not, right.
Which you'd think it'd be.
Our family housing consists of 8 two-bedroom units funded by DHCD, Department of Housing, and I don't know what that stands for. Section 8 housing choice vouchers provide subsidies for privately leased housing. We manage 374 HUD-funded vouchers. We have 41 units in the Department of Mental Health rental assistance. And then 3840 Harts Hill Road is a state 689 program providing residential facilities for 9 clients of the Department of Developmental Services. And that's the one I had visited.
EHCD is Department of Housing and Community Development.
So there's all these buckets of money. How do you even keep it all straight?
There's
So,
also an office, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Never heard of that. It was established in 2023 to create more homes and lower housing costs for Massachusetts residents.
And I asked, what is a livable community?
I've never heard that term before. Because if people are living there, I think it's a livable community.
I hope it's livable, people living there. So when they talk about support, I guess it's not a system, it's supportive housing. And Lincoln School has congregate housing. So we're looking for congregate supportive housing.
But wasn't that considered frail elderly,
For which one?
Lincoln Schoolhouse? thought they-
I think it is elderly, but the frail elder is like a federal term because the state can get federal dollars back. So I don't believe that's at the Lincoln School, but that's just my understanding.
Yeah, it says 10 one-bedroom units of elderly disabled housing and 3 units of congregate housing for 15 clients. And the supportive housing looks like it's only at Harts Hill. Okay, so this new thing that's going to be built is going to be supportive, assisted, supportive congregate housing. That's what we'll see how that works. Anybody else have anything more on this topic? It's going to be complicated. It's going to be complicated. Because there's going to be all these different buckets of money that we're going to have straight. Well, at least if we can get the information for Wakefield, we could put a spreadsheet together. Right? To just for our own selves to try to understand it all.
And then we add the MBTA overlay into that mix too.
Right, and some of what is going to be built by that, by the result of that, that's what we'll be advocating for, right? But therein lies the problem, right? It's all going to come down to money.
And affordability is
And afford it, right?
it's
Because whoever is building those are going to want to get as much money as they can, be it whether it's rent or if it's condominiums.
Mhm.
That's where it gets tricky. It's not really going to be for the majority of our population. Okay, so let's just Judy had mentioned the Disabilities Connections on April 10. And we had talked about that before, and I guess we got notice that it's moved from Somerville to Suffolk University. Did you see that, Judy?
They also have the opportunity to attend via Zoom, which is how I would attend.
And that's what Lorna was saying. I'm curious how that would work. I mean, how do you network via Zoom? because I mean, there will be people going there. But I mean, yes, let's, better to have a presence than not at all, even if it is via Zoom. I would have gone to Somerville, but getting into Suffolk makes, it's a whole other
And
challenge.
it's way up on a hill with no parking.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
mean,
it's the most accessible location that they chose.
I don't know
Or the
why
State House.
they changed it for a reason. So who knows, right? I'm sure it was a reason. We just don't know what it is. But you're right, going to Somerville would have been so much easier because it's, it's right there off of 28. It has parking.
Mhm.
This is gonna be a nightmare.
I've already
Okay.
registered for the Zoom one, because I've got to work at 1 o'clock, so I would never have been able to even stay there for the whole thing.
All right, well, that would be great if you and Judy attend. I'll be very curious to see how that goes.
Marie, do you
Nice.
have the registration information for that I can?
I will send
Send
that
it
to
out to
you.
folks?
Just-
Do you want to send it to everybody? In case-
I will send it to everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna make myself a note. Okay. So Janice, before we get to the polling stations, I just want to, I did receive an email from Bill Renault. We've been talking to him, and I think this came up after our meeting last month. We all got an invitation from the town to attend the or whatever volunteer celebration or whatever it is they're calling it at the Albion Cultural Exchange. And obviously, some of our board members immediately, noted that it is not accessible. So what's the town planning to do to allow everybody to be able to participate? So Bill Renault is working it, and he said that the Public Works is making a ramp to facilitate access into the ACE building for the volunteer event. The ramp will be removable. It will take up a good section of the sidewalk. So we will have folks there to assist with installing and removing the ramp before and after the event.
So the access will be in the front entryway. Interesting. I
Sounds
figured
like-
that they would have gone around the back in that dark parking lot.
Well, I don't know if everybody was here when Chris Carino, who was the point of contact there back in the day, had done a presentation to us. This is going back a few years now. And he had had a couple of studies done, and the one that they were leaning towards, the ramp, it would have been a permanent ramp, and it would have been in the front, and it would have been, it would have taken up probably going to look very much like what we're going to see. And so the only way we could do that, I think, was to bump out the sidewalk there in front of the ACE building. That's what Bill had been talking about. And I think that, that discussion continues. It's just a matter of when. I know there had also been some discussion about access through the back, through some right of way that the old Sovereign Bank had. And they were going to put an elevator back there.
But that's going to be apartments or condos and retail now.
Right, a
And-
restaurant. Are they still saying
I
restaurant?
think a
on the
restaurant,
first floor?
yep. So
And
I
then
think
condos up where in the back. So
there's not even enough parking for the people who would be living in the condos. They had to go to in front of the zoning board to appeal that. So I have no idea what's going to happen to that back entryway. I don't think it's going to be a possibility of being accessible. It'll be interesting because I think that Bill said something about, like bumping out, making the curb bump. That takes a lot of years of planning because
And
it's expensive.
And they just did all, they just did all that work on Albion Street. You'd think they would have done it then.
One would think, Marie.
Stopped at Foster Street, though. for that reason. I think the Envision project goes further down towards May. And I think it's a parking spot if they put in the ramp also. Because it
Yeah,
would come up sidewalk.
Or they shouldn't, they're gonna lose a parking spot. There shouldn't be an option to not have the building be accessible. So,
But I think
I
they
think
would
it's in the works.
for the building. There is a right of way that still goes out to Chestnut, I believe. And they're gonna have like a bridge going from those condos to the bank building itself now. Like a
Hmm.
bridge going, and
That's
it would
right.
be beneath that. That's my recollection, but that was months ago that they decided that.
well, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like, and I'm glad he's doing it. Because it needs to happen if you're gonna, invite everybody and then say, oh, I'm sorry, but not you. That's not okay. By a long shot.
More's gonna- Yeah, more will be done there now because it's gonna be under the direction of the Recreation Commission rather
Right.
than private. I should say a town committee, I guess.
Mhm. Well, good.
Okay, so
Did everybody get that invitation? Yeah, good.
did everybody get that invitation? Yes, okay. And I forget the date on that, but was it March or April? I can't even remember.
March. Pretty sure it's March.
March what?
It's March 18th, which Monday, 6 to 7:30. Okay,
Good, thank you, because I had 6 to 7:30 crossed off, blanked out on my calendar, but didn't tell me where I was supposed to be.
yeah, I've done that plenty of times.
Oh, yeah. Like,
That's-
oh my God, where am I supposed to be right now?
Yeah, I know it. So I was looking at, I'm at a, I'm at a continuing ed class all day on that Monday, and then I looked down, I said, huh, I'm supposed to be somewhere, but I didn't write where I was supposed to be.
That's where you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
All right, and Janice, you want to do the update on the training session for the polling? I read through, that's a pretty extensive survey. Now,
Yeah.
are you supposed to go to the Wakefield polling?
I
center?
am going to the Wakefield polling station, and it's tomorrow. It's like, oh, wow. Like it snuck up on me. So it actually is, so I wrote a note down about this. What did I do? All right, so I attended through the Disability Law Center, which is a Massachusetts-based program. The session was an hour, and it's on polling place accessibility. So they walked through a bunch of issues and how to make the assessment when you get there, and they walked through some of the particular pieces and went into some of the details of exactly what to look for, how to measure, what to measure. And the training took place on the 14th, and recently they got the video together of the training. So if you want to watch it, it's about 45 minutes of information and about 15 minutes of questions and answers. And some person named Janice asked a lot of questions. I don't know who that was. So you can watch it if you want, and it'll be exactly like being there because it's all videotaped. And so there are things that it's about 30 questions on the polling place accessibility survey, and they are not fully assessing ADA requirements. So if you're looking at a real ADA in Massachusetts architectural guidelines survey, it would have probably 100 questions about the facility. Things such as, are there fire alarms that have visual lights in case there is a situation that occurs and they have to evacuate people? You need visual lights for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, so because they may not hear the alarm going off. So it doesn't really touch on all those. We had a very similar tool that was about 12 pages at Department of Public Health that had some very general questions about access with some measurements. used that tool for years. And then a new person came in who actually used to be the national person who answered the phone on disability access questions. So that person you were talking about calling then came to work at Department of Public Health, and she's the disability director in the city of Cambridge now. But she actually got a hold of the tool and says, well, this only covers about 10% of what you really actually have to cover. And people would say, oh, we're ADA compliant because they filled out that tool. And then we're very, very far from being ADA compliant because it just captures a little bit. So there will be measuring. I have my measuring tool. First, I want to say anybody who wants to join me tomorrow, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to touch base. I'm going to see if I can find Betsy Sheeran. She's our clerk that's in charge of all the voting things, and let her know that I am there. I've been told that they can't kick me out, that they have to allow this to happen. I have they said, if that happens, you call us and we will explain to people that, yes, you have the right to be there to be doing these measurements. So generally speaking, the polling place has to assure that all people can vote with privacy and independence, as much independence as possible. If they need to, they can bring a companion with them who can go with them right to the voting place and assist them in voting if that's what they would like to have happen. They can't say, no, you can't have two people inside that voting booth. That is allowable. They must have at least one electronic voting access point. And there's a machine that I've never heard of, maybe you all have, called an AutoMark. And I don't recall seeing such a thing, but I've never heard of it before, so I wouldn't have looked for it when I was voting. It has to be operable. The trainer said sometimes it's against a wall and not even plugged in. So it has to be operable, and at least some of the poll workers should know how to operate the machine.
And who's it for? Is it for people who have sight?
I'm not really sure. It's different from, so if you can't use a paper ballot, I don't know if it's something that if it's for someone who perhaps is blind and or has whatever kind of visual acuity issues, that you can make it audible so that you know what it is that you're doing. You might be able to answer audibly. Not really sure, and they didn't really go into exactly what it is, but it has to be readily accessible. It has to have a privacy shield, and they can't limit who gets to use it. If anybody asks to use it, they have to allow them to use it. And the other things I was thinking about, like, what haven't I seen before, but I haven't been looking for it, is they have to provide seating for somebody who cannot stand for long periods of time. If there is a line, I don't think I've ever seen more than 5 people in line when I've gone to vote. Maybe that's happens differently. I actually remember I had longer lines when we voted in our own precinct.
Right.
But this is but there has to be seating that's allowed. So the person was asked, that one of the presenters was asked, have this training has been shared with town clerks, voting clerks, and the answer is yes, this training has been shared with them. And I asked if they were going to share it with the commissions on disabilities, and they said they were going to try to do so. But Marie, if you haven't gotten a notice, then I don't know if they figured out how to do that. I'm guessing that they haven't. So I signed up to evaluate the Wakefield polling site, and I will be going tomorrow. And so the person that I did not know this, the Disability Advocate has a voting, Disability Law Center has a voting rights advocate, a woman named Emily Almeida Lopez, and she was one of the presenters. And then they have a lawyer that works on this issue as well, and he was the other presenter.
So AutoMark Voter Assist Terminal, VAT, electronic ballot marker designed for use by voters with disabilities or language access needs. And I just sent this to Janice, but I can send it to everyone. It looks a little antiquated, but if it works.
I know years ago, they used to have, and you're familiar with it, Maria's, like an Optilex that they used to use for vision impaired people to blow up the ballot.
Hmm.
But usually, there aren't too many people that know how to operate it.
Right. Right, that's kind of an important step, is making sure there are people at the polling, at least we're all now at one polling place. So I
Right,
think the chances of having someone there who knows how to use it, you don't have to train one person at each precinct or two people at each precinct if that person's not there or can't stay all day. So I'm hoping, given the location of our polling is in a very new school, and what Wakefield has already done, increasing the number of parking spaces by putting temporary parking directly in front. We have, one set of doors and it's accessible to everybody. So I'm hoping that the measurements are going to work well, because Bill Renaud was here when that building was built. And but the little details, like, do you have seating, and what, do you have a polling station? You know how ours are, chest height for me, probably not for other people. They also have to have a booth that's lower, and they have the measurements for that as well. So one of the booths that's with all the other booths needs to be accessible. And then this AutoMark machine needs to be operable and private. So you can easily do that, just turn the whole thing around so that the wall is behind you, versus having somebody walking by and seeing what you're doing. So,
And I would recommend you probably send Betsy an email tonight to let her know that you're coming, and copy Bill.
okay,
He's our ADA, person in town, just so that, yeah, if there's any concerns, both of those, that each other is on that.
Plus, I think that each precinct has a precinct warden that's in charge of one or two precincts. So they're in charge of those two. And Betsy would be the ultimate leader of the group.
and
But
she may not be there, so if she's not there, I will find one of those wardens and let them know. So we shall see.
He's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always seen her there when I voted, so it's but who knows?
keeping the sign holders back 100 feet or whatever.
Yeah. And there were things that I didn't know of, like how they have to post the ballot. The physical questions have to be posted in the polling place, which I didn't know they had to be posted, but apparently they do. That has to be no more than 48 inches off the ground. And I think I remember when I voted at West Side that it was on the glass of the door, and the glass of the door, I think, was above 48 inches, I'm guessing, because I think I had to look up to see it, maybe. But I haven't voted there for a few years, so I don't remember. So that's easy to fix. You pull it off and you could be 48 inches off the ground.
Right.
For the night, they have to post the results of that precinct or double precinct on that door, like you're saying.
Oh, they do?
Results, yeah. That's why people that used to campaign used to have a cell phone at each one of the precincts. And they call it, and they had the results before town hall had them.
Oh, wow.
Remember
That's
that.
cool. Didn't know that.
I ran 3 times, that's why I know.
I would have voted for you, Dan. So we'll let you know how that comes out. We shall see. I'll let you know how welcoming people are.
What time, by the way,
I'm sorry?
what time are you going to be there approximately?
I don't know. I was thinking of going, early in the day. I can go anytime. That's why I was gonna ask if anybody wants to go. I'll go whenever you want to go.
Well, it's a presidential primary, so it's probably going to be slow, but it's usually that hour or two at the start, then it's a slack off, and then around noontime, then about 5.
Well, maybe I'll go like 10 when the slack off, because all the people that are going to work that want to go before work will maybe be done. So I'll go around 10. So I see any of you there, I'm gonna sidle up next to you and say, come on over.
Give me a hand.
I'll wear my great big inspector hat and have my,
Let's
I had said to our the folks that worked on tobacco control that I totally wanted to be deputized to prevent underage kids from buying. I was at the gas station on Main Street once, and these two kids on these small bicycles, three kids on small bicycles came up, and they were definitely going to buy cigarettes from the guy in the window. So I just turned around, I was pumping my gas, and I gave them, the teacher stare down, and the kids just moved away, and they just moved to the side. And when I went in to pay, I said, I'm assuming you are not going to sell cigarettes to those clearly underage children. Oh, no, I would never do. So I've always wanted to be deputized, but we'll see. I hope that everybody's in a good mood. And, but, it's gonna get done, so we shall see. I can't find my pressure gauge. God knows where I put that, but I have.
The one thing that I noticed and Lois also noticed is where Lois has low vision, is they should have a little light bulb inside each one of the polling,
Oh,
and they were missing a lot of the light was out.
oh,
And-
interesting.
Lois,
That's good. I also now have vision issues, so it will be an issue for me as well. So interesting.
Your
Okay.
phone, yeah, your phone flashlight, I'm always using that to read a menu somewhere or.
Mhm. I'll just look in between where I've lost vision in this eye and lost vision in this eye and try to see if I can.
we'll get a box of bulbs for Betsy.
There you go. I never thought of that. That's really good to think about.
Betsy does a great job though, election day.
Yeah.
It's a hard job to do.
She's a hard worker.
Yeah, she is. Very much so.
A few years back, she was outside looking for the people that were holding the signs, and she tripped on the curbing and broke her wrist.
Oh, my
She-
God.
To the hospital and came back and did the rest of the day.
No way. Oh, I can imagine the people at the hospital. No, you take care of this right now. All right. Well, I'll look for the light bulbs, Lois, and I'll let you know.
I'm sure she'll be receptive. If there are findings, I'm sure she'll be receptive.
Yeah,
with
and there'll be
adjustments.
far fewer findings than there would have been if we were all out at the precinct.
Different places, yes.
Yeah. So, and that's good. And, we've got Bill Renow, so he's just
Right.
It's good.
on it.
Now, will you have a badge or anything?
No, I will
Yeah.
not. Well, I actually had when we were doing this work at the department, when we gave everybody, this was their favorite thing. We gave them little tool aprons. They loved the tool aprons, and they put their measuring tape and their pressure gauge and things inside the tool aprons. That was like, because you got the clipboard and this and that, and so but they love the tool aprons. So
You need one of those little vests. I bet you could get one from the town, right? The little brightly orange
there
colored
you go.
vest.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That would help you to stand out.
It'd be great for my coloring too, to have fluorescent orange, because
There
that's a
you
good color on everybody. Mm.
Yeah, well, let us know. I'll be definitely curious how that all goes.
If you want, I have one of those vests you can borrow if you'd
There you
like.
go.
No, I'm going to try to be like under the radar as much as possible and try not to ruffle feathers and but we'll be very clear that it's not an option for me to be there. If they
And you know
challenge
what
it in
I
any
would,
way.
yeah, also suggest, once you determine all your findings, that you discuss them with Bill in the best way.
Mhm.
What is the best way to communicate that?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Bill and Betsy, and just say, if they don't have that machine, or if it was not plugged in, or nobody knew how to use it. We can have a little chat, because I'm sure they know each other. They're both town hall
Oh,
people.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he's so knowledgeable and in a more laid back way usually than I am. So I get stressed if, somebody has parked in the van lane, the van access lane, and I'm more likely to go complain about it than the person who has had their access blocked. So, but I'll be calm.
Don't have too much coffee before you go.
No, not too much coffee. And I'll let you know. And I think that Wakefield's going to do very well, because I think that it's there's somebody who cares about access in the town, and the school is so new that in the so.
People do care, and I know they've got questions after a few of the elections in the past about certain things, so
Yep.
people do care about it.
Yep. And I think that, putting all the additional spaces there was, just something that they thought they should do. And which is good.
Well, I think it was a recommendation from this board.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it was listened to.
And that bill have an emergency generator, so if anything should happen as far as the power, they've got the generator.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. It's supposed to be cold and icky tomorrow, I think.
Rainy. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, yeah.
I think it's going down to 30, so that'll make it a low turnout.
Well, great. That should be interesting. Report back once you. I'll be curious to see how that goes. Does anyone have any other old or new business that they want to discuss? I think we covered everything that we had for agenda items.
Well, I could add one thing especially to Lorna, that she knows. We did call the architects for the new high school, and we did talk about the T-coil. And they are going to have not T-coil, but something very similar that'll hitch into regular hearing aids. And that will be in, I think, 4 or 5 different locations. The
Oh, that's
auditorium,
good,
the common areas. So we got something out of that.
good.
Excellent.
Good
Thank
work,
you.
Dan.
Yeah.
I wonder what about the vote.
Good question.
Yeah, I'm sure we had brought that up. It all seems so like it's going to be so far down the road before this is good, before they're both done. Well, if there isn't anything else, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Well,
Thank you, Lois. And someone to second, please. Thank you, Paul.
When's
Okay,
the
so
next meeting?
I'm sorry,
When is the next meeting?
it's April 1st. Let me just check.
Yep.
Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. And it seems like we're gonna have a lot to cover because folks will have attended meetings and voting. And so, yeah, we'll have a lot to chat about housing. All right, we'll have a good next 4 weeks and we will see you then.
yeah.
Get
Thank
out
you,
and
everybody.
Take care.
Good night.